Good evening and welcome. I'm Hailey Coxon. This is Spirit of Motorsport TV. And tonight it's Mountain Memories episode 7 with the great Roy Moore and Barry Wood. Thank you so much for tuning in. It's lovely to see all the familiar names popping up. Good evening, Phil Nelms. He says, good evening, guys. Hit me with some more great tales. Yes, Phil, we will. We are hanging in your every word, loving it. Thank you. John Kashersky, howdy all from America, ready to listen to these two traveling superheroes. I agree. Brian Spooner, good evening to you too. John O'Sullivan, good evening from Dublin. Hello, hello, hello. Phil Looney, looking forward to this. Excellent. Well, we all know what's to expect from this evening where Roy and Barry share their mountain memories. And we have given this platform really to the boys to virtually bring their stories and their memories to your screen. So remembering that their page is already existing, was prior to the show on Facebook. So if you haven't joined it already and you're coming from our Spirit of Motorsport platform, make sure you hit join on the Roy Moore and Barry Wood Mountain Memories page. They share all sorts of fantastic pictures, stories, lots of great content getting shared there daily, multiple times through the day. And when we did discover that last year, we had to support the boys in bringing it to your screens and sharing more of their mountain memories, and now inviting some incredible guests to join them along the way. So tonight, our theme is acknowledging the traveling marshals of the Isle of Man TT Mountain Course. Now, if you've been tuning in with us since we launched the Spirit of Motorsport, you would have known that we've had some of the marshals on so far and covered some of their stories, but there's so much more to cover. So tonight, joining us in the studio, we do have Mr. Keith Trubshaw and the wonderful Tony Duncan as well. But before we have those boys join us, let's invite Mr. Roy Moore and Barry Wood back into the studio. Good evening, boys.
Evening, campers.
Good evening, Hailey.
Yeah, we've had a complaint, Hailey. We've had a complaint. You're blocking Nick Chetterton out of Quarterbridge. You'll be all right. Get very upset. Background.
Oh, bless him.
And what a delight to see Barry here alongside me. And we know that the pressure he's been under the last couple of times during the lockdown. We're absolutely delighted to say the Isle of Man came out of lockdown yesterday. And he's only not just arrived, really, to be fair. He's been delayed because he heard the ice cream van in Williston and just had to nip off and get an ice cream before he came down here in his shorts.
Didn't have time to get one. And I must say, I don't know about being delighted to be here. Whatever you said, Roy. It's a relief to be here after the stress of the last two programs, the vast amount of technical knowledge required to get on here. And I've let the gentleman here, this technological whiz kid, and that we're here. So it's a great relief. And I think it's better as well that we're in the same place. You know, it's easier to have a bit of banter rather than just talking to another camera. So, yes.
Great. You've done well, Barry. You've done fantastic. So it's great to have you boys back together, though. We've got some comments already. Lots of comments actually coming through. John Kashersky saying, Roy Moore and Barry Wood's Mountain Memories is the best. Pete Forsyth is saying, good evening. Colin Ormrod is saying, good evening, Hailey and boys from sunny Liverpool. It definitely is sunny. Andy Carouche says, Waldorf and Stadler are back together again.
Hey, boy. Cut that out.
Go for it, Barry.
He's filmed himself in the hot tub in the back garden every few nights. Like, he's probably there now, I would imagine.
Send us pictures. He's also, Roger Barnes is saying, evening all. Brilliant. So all our regular names, thank you so much for tuning in and continuing to support us. Gail Kaur saying, evening from sunny Skerries. Have a great show. This will be interesting with the traveling marshals. I agree. Keep your comments coming in and make sure you share it with your friends. If there's anyone that you know is going to enjoy the show this evening, please do tag them in, share it with them, and get them joining in the chat and the banter. The boys can take it, and I certainly love witnessing it. So without further ado then, boys, you suggested inviting Keith and Tony on together. So fill us in a little bit why you suggested inviting these boys onto the show tonight.
Well, I thought we had a good mix here of former road racers, former Manx Grand Prix aces, the two of them. I'm sure they won't mind me referring to them as that, who went on to become travelling marshals. And obviously, travelling marshals are always former racers with great experience, and they fitted into that perfectly. But Tony, a double winner, Trubby, several second places. One of those riders, he should have won the Manx several times, but luck or whatever wasn't there on the day. But both good lads to talk to, and I'm sure that they can answer all the questions which will emanate from people. Looking forward to it.
Goes back a bit further with me, Hailey, because I remember Tony's dad, Tommy. We were living in Spring Valley for a number of years, which we reflected on when Barry's computer went pear-shaped last time we were on, about that view that we're at there at Quarterbridge. But go up the road a bit further, as though you're heading to the airport, and turn right onto Saddle Road, and you come into Duncan territory up around that part of the world. And certainly Spring Valley and around that area, everybody knew one another, fishing in the River Glass, River Doo, and all the things that went on. And it came as a bit of a surprise to me, because we moved away from Spring Valley, well, obviously later on, when Barry's the man who's got all Tony's racing career, and certainly he knew all about it. But it came as a bit of a surprise, because I genuinely don't know how he got into it. So tonight, that's what we're here for. We're not here to talk too much. We're just here to kind of link now and again. But the kind of thing of, you're always asked the inevitable question, well, what started you off on motorcycling? I mean, Tommy, Tony's dad, was Kenny, was in Tommy Duncan. He was a sidecar man, wasn't he? Yeah, that was it. Yeah, Kenny Duncan. Yeah, he was involved with the brewery. And again, in those days, when you were involved with the brewery, you were a well-known figure here, there, and everywhere. And you lose contact with people, and all of a sudden, as young fellas, up racing round and doing well. And then I think we were on duty when he did the double that particular year. So yeah, it's interesting. And yeah, we've certainly got. And then Keith, I got to know Keith through work. Going to the house and then knowing who he was and knowing a little bit about him. And then I think we weren't on air when he was about. I think he was a bit earlier than 84.
Just by about a year. I think 85 was his last Manx ride.
Might have been he probably would have got one in for Keith Trubshaw, and as Barry has already said, he's the working encyclopedia of what records you're doing. He can even tell you what colour socks you had on race day, or whether they were lucky ones, because that's another thing that crops up. We'll ask them, do you have any superstitions? This fella raced all the way back home. He wouldn't go out on the course until he had a ball and cross on board, and it's one of his stories that he tells.
You remember these stories, Roy?
Yeah, well, this is what it's all about, and we're going to be entertained by two people who've got great respect as racers, but even more respect for what they deal with and get involved in as travelling marshals. We have the chief travelling marshal to go over from Dick Cassidy, I think. And certainly there'll be things there that will be a delight to hear.
It's not a traveller marshal job. There's many different facets to that. Anybody who's never seen that before sees a guy riding around with on closed roads with them on his back and on his bike and thinks, I wouldn't mind doing that myself. But you literally never know what you're going to have to deal with. It could be an incident. It could be a sheep out on the road, a tree down, a dog. It could be 101 other things, And both of these boys will have had plenty of experiences of all manner of situations, I'm sure.
We've had some more comments, boys. Bill Davies saying, hi, guys. Jules Liz says, good evening. Lorraine Nelms is saying good evening as well. Phil Nelms is saying, has Hailey done a lap on a bike? Sadly not. Every time I'm there, though, I'm always doing laps in the car, but not on a bike yet. And Enzo Henley said, you said the wonderful Tony Duncan. Is there two Tony Duncans then? How rude, how rude. And all right then, so should we invite the boys in then? I can't wait to hear their mountain memories, and also they've shared some great pictures as well, so we're going to be dropping them into the show. So Mr. Keith Trubshaw and Tony Duncan, welcome to Mountain Memories.
Hello.
Good evening.
Hey, boy.
How you doing, guys?
All right, good.
Hey, a man in shed. An original man in shed, by the look of it.
Definitely. Well, Hailey took me out to the summer house the other. Oh no, I was in the conservatory and the sun was too strong and I was squinting like this, so I came into here.
Wonderful.
I thought Barry was very generous, as not to say an old travelling marshal and a current travelling marshal.
No, I was too polite to say that. I would say it's actually quite bright. You're shining well tonight, Keith. But,
I know. I asked Aidan.
I'm sure.
I asked Aidan to put some more hair on here, but he couldn't. It looks okay in the mirror.
No, it's that blonde curly hair when I used to watch it.
Well, I know it's down here somewhere.
Well, yeah, inevitable.
You're not on duty tonight, are you, Tony?
No, finished on a training course this week, so I'll finish today. So, no, not on call tonight.
For those of you not aware, Tony is in the fire service. So, hope you don't get any criminal action up around Duncan or anywhere like that, and you have to rush away. So
avoid drama.
So we've had some comments, everybody. We've got good evening to Keith and Tony from Brian Spooner. We've also got Yvonne Ward saying it's very good to see Keith and Tony. Robert Jackson saying hi all. Stephen Oates is saying looks like Tony been in the sun all day.
Actually, can you see it from there? I didn't think you could see it. I am a bit gingy, you see.
Yeah. So boys, I'm going to let you guys catch up and get on with it, and we're going to drop some pictures in and out, and I'll jump in and out with comments and questions from the viewers. Please keep them coming in, guys. Keep sharing them with your friends, get them involved in the chat, and I'm going to leave the boys now to catch up and check in and fire their questions at each other.
Well, I think it's fair to say, boys, you were both very much in the two-stroke vein in your race careers. You two-stroke men. I think, Truby, you had a little four-stroke in the very early days, possibly.
Well, you know some stuff, don't you?
Truby Honda, the one that got crashed at the Craig, yes, but we won't talk about that.
Well done.
But what I was wondering about when we had Con Law on a load of weeks ago, Con also was a predominant two-stroke man in his race career, but he was saying that when he went into travelling marshal in the Irish roads and he first discovered big four-strokes, he thought to himself, I wish I'd had one of these in my racing days. When you've been doing your duties on the big four-strokes, have you ever regretted not racing one?
Question to both of you, that one.
Keith first.
No. I enjoyed my racing days. The funny thing was when I started being travelling marshal, it was on a VFR Honda, and I went out for the first practice session. And of course, I was so used to two strokes, I wanted to take it to pieces. I just couldn't get used to this idea of just sticking petrol into a motorbike, you know.
Well, I think in fairness, Keith, the four strokes weren't so predominant in your career, if I may put it that way. But Tony, you sort of came along in parallel with the potential to do that, didn't you?
Yeah, it was just the era where it was 250s and the 600s were getting quicker and quicker, but a good 250 would still beat 600. And then obviously they got faster and faster as they progressed and stuff, and everyone started to go to the 600s because the two strokes were getting expensive. So yeah, so it sort of changed from two strokes winning everything, and the four stroke 600s came through, and overtook the two strokes.
Bit of a nuisance for a while. I'm 600s, weren't they, when you were on a 250?
Yeah, if you got around them and got a good run out of it, you'd keep ahead of them. But the 600s then were a little bit faster down the straight, but a little bit slower around the corners. So you had to sort of gauge it a little bit, you know.
as they got developed, they overtook the 250s basically. But there was a time where that was the case. When you ride the Marshall's bikes, now I don't know if I'm even allowed to ask this question. Do you turn the gear linkage the other way around to a race linkage to make you feel more comfortable?
No, we just keep them bog standard, to be honest. You just ride them as they are, keep them as standard, don't mess around with them. And just they're gone are those days. It was a while ago since you raced, so we're used to that gear pattern now. So it's just leave them as they are. Don't touch them.
Very, very sensible. And that's probably why I was never a travelling marshal. I was never that sensible, but yeah.
Do you think that looks sensible? Keith looks sensible.
Thank you.
None of the team are sensible neither, so there's no sensible TMs.
Well,
it has been proven in the past.
Saying about the gear lever, actually, somebody asked me that. They said, because I jumped from a 350 Yamaha to the 750 Honda Marshall's bike, and as Tony says, the gears are left alone. And somebody said to me, don't you have troubles remembering which way? And I said, no. And this was a couple of years later, and it was a 1000 Honda, and I nipped past a little 250 Ducati between Sarah's, going up from Glen Helen to Sarah's. And as I went round, I changed down instead of up. and the bike just went sideways, and I blocked the whole road for this poor little lad on his Ducati.
Just instinct after many, many years, especially if you maybe don't ride a road bike very often. I mean, the TT course is a TT course, but then again, you're out on duty as well, which is, you want no dramas, of course.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, we get the bikes quite early on for the travel marshals, and we get to run them in, do laps around, do about 600 miles, 700 miles on them to run them in, put them in for a service. So you're sort of used to the bikes and used to the gear pattern anyways and stuff. So it's just instinctive, isn't it, after a while?
When you used to go around doing that running in, that's always one of those signs where the TT's just around the corner, Roy, isn't it?
Always used to be a sign. I can recall when he was Chief Travelling Marshal, he actually lent Jeff Cannell a bike to run in, and Tommy Leonard, I think, was operational then, and they all had to go back to his shop type of thing, and it was a common sight, and the only place you could run them in was round the mountain course, so it wasn't unusual. Maybe they didn't have the M plates on by then, but the early days before practice, they would be getting bedded down, ready for the fortnight, and that would apply to Grand Prix as well. Yeah. Where did it all start for you, Keith? I mean, you're a come over in this.
Stay over.
Yeah.
You formed a link with Telecom, obviously, so you're on the island quite a bit. But everybody's got to know you. But, I mean, from my point of view, I didn't have a clue where you started. Your racing, would it be at Aintree?
Aintree and Oulton were close to where I lived. And Cadwell. I love Cadwell. That's not close. It was across the other side in Yorkshire, or Lincolnshire. But I used to do different club circuits at 1969. A long time ago.
Oh my goodness me! And was that through like it is now? You joined BEMC or one of the other recognised organisers, and then did their series type of thing. But I've only ever been to Aintree once, I must admit. And
that Aintree is my favourite circuit. Short circuit, fantastic. It's really good.
Did you do Aintree years ago, Keith, when it was a longer back straight? Didn't it used to go a lot further than it does now?
Hang on, I'm not that old. No, the actual Grand Prix circuit was the ultimate back straight, but they've not used that since I've been racing.
It was 1969.
Yeah, it was 1969. It was the club circuit then, but it's still a good straight. Molly, John. The top riders go there for practice before the TT because it's the longest unchicaned straight in the country.
That would be, yeah.
That was a bit when you mentioned Dave Molyneux. I mean, it's off the kind of dial now. It has been announced, but he's going to use the KTM for 2022 as his power outfit. And talking to Andy Farragher the other day, and they're very, very confident and hopeful that it will be the way forward. Just purely by, in this modern day and age, how they can get the readings, and they're obviously in a place down there in Andros where you can find next door Slick Bass, who's always here, there and everywhere doing it. But again, Aintree, but obviously Tony over on the island, it would be Derby, the equivalent of, wouldn't it? You started?
Yeah, it's everyone starts at Derby. So it was, as Barry knows, it was a little bit different then. There was a few different circuits, and certainly not the surface there is there now. It was just stone chippings everywhere. So the surface was terrible. Wasn't quite in the hangers day. It was just after the hangers. 1988 was the first year at Derby. Phil Hogg, big Rob Farragher, John Smythe. So they'd all fly past you on the perimeter, and you just get stone chipped, and you just, stones would fly up at you like bullets. And that's all I remember. First going out, my first bike was a little LC 350, and that was a baptism of fire when those lot came past you on 1000s, 1100s, leant over and just throwing stones at you. It was an experience, as Barry well knows, in them days. Yeah,
well, there's me and Tony together.
That's it. That's Dean Harrison is there, Nathan Harrison's dad. That's myself and Barry down at Pembrey on TZRs in the early days.
Boy band, Tony.
Yeah.
Right, say again?
Looks like a boy band.
It does look like a boy band, yeah. We had a bit more hair in them days and stuff, and almost good looking.
Where did you dig that up from?
Hey, that's
in my personal album, that one.
Great shot, Tony. Loved it. What would the boy band name be? That's what I'd like to know.
Yeah, I think we'll think of something before the end of the program.
We've got some questions, boys. I have to share them because they're coming in fast and thick. First of all, just say good evening to Mick Chatterton and Pat Slynn. Hello and welcome. Thanks again for joining us. So we've got Miles Caller asking, can I ask Keith and Tony which were the best and worst bikes they used as TMs and why? Ooh, juicy.
I'll go first because Keith's pondering, isn't he?
You can see the brain.
He's going. To be honest, I've never really had a bad bike. They're all different. I mean, I've had the VFR 800s, but that wasn't the fastest thing. But it was you could just ride at 150 mile an hour top end, and it just was planted everywhere, and it was actually good fun. It didn't have to go too fast. But I've been very lucky over the years because since I started, the travel marshals, mainly Honda, obviously, majority of Honda. We've had good years from Yamaha, and then 2011, I think it was, Suzuki Thousands. So we've been quite lucky, really. Phaser Yamahas, all sorts, but none's been really bad. I haven't personally had a bad TM bike, all different. So, yeah. Keith.
Excellent. Keith, what about yourself?
Well, I was going to say exactly the same. They've all been lovely bikes. What was that one called, Tony? The V-twin, was that a VTR?
Oh, VTR Firestorm.
That was incredible. You could lean that over as good as Rossi and all them can lean a bike over. Everything would be touching the floor. Incredible little bike, and it felt so tiny, but it was great. Obviously the best I rode was the fastest was the Fireblades. They were incredible. That's an old one.
How does it go about? I mean, do you get offers of supplying bikes? I mean, it seems to be Honda off late, but there was a kind of a change, wasn't there? Are the factories keen to be seen with you boys on them? The 7 traveling marshals going round, and you get, possibly a bit of a contest as to who's going to supply them.
Yeah, I think Honda over the years have always been good just to supply the bikes, no quibbles. But I think a few years ago they went out to tender to the manufacturers to make it maybe a bit fairer and also to get some income. So they did go out to tender for a while, and between Yamaha and Honda mostly. I think 2011 it was some sort of celebration for Suzuki. So Yamaha were kind enough to give that to let Suzuki's come in that year. I can't remember what celebration it was, but yeah, they came in that year. So I still think it goes out to tender, and I don't know if it's over 3 years or whatever. If there is, I don't know how it works now. It's not as it used to be all Honda all the time, but it's I think it's a bit fairer now. It goes out to tender. So.
We've got Brian Spooner here saying, when Keith rode the 350, did you have a right-hand change?
Yeah, that's where I said when it jumped on the marshal's bike, just had to get rid of. I'll get used to a left-hand change. Yeah, I had the crossover linkage on it.
Okay, great question. John Koshiersky saying, would you'd like to ask you both what your best memory as a traveling marshal is? So let's go with Tony to start with.
Best one. I don't know, to be honest. They're all good memories, especially when the weather's nice, great days, and the best memories are when we don't have many incidents, to be honest. If we can have a clear run where we don't move anywhere in race periods, then that's good times, really. Yeah.
Great. Thank you. How was it?
I didn't put that one off.
I did. That was sorry. There's a story behind that one. That's when Max's tyres were supplying us the tyres for the bikes, and we didn't know that's a girl called Candice Collier, who's a model, and she was a former girlfriend of Simon Andrews before he died at the Northwest 200. She's a model, still around, going around BSBs. So we didn't know Candice was coming. We just told to go up to the grandstand to do a photo shoot. Up to Candice turns up, and I think if they knew Candice was going to turn up, there would have been more TMs there that night. There was only 5 of us there, but obviously Norman Dean, Vic, myself, and Ian are there. But yeah, there would have been probably about the whole team. There would have been at least 8 of us there.
Great picture. We've got a name for the band, boys. No Direction boy band. That's come from Mandy Duncan.
We actually made the albums, and I couldn't even remember our name. Put it that way.
4.72 strokes. They're coming fast with it. Good, right. Thanks for your comments, everyone, and your questions. Keep them coming in.
Tony, if I can just ask you now, going back to the early days of your interest, how you got interested in bike racing. You actually had a Manx Grand Prix rider in your garage in Palatine Road. Would you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, well, not only a Grand Prix rider, I had a TT rider when Palatine Road. We had Mick Boddice, stayed with us for years. So Mick was the TT in the garage, and he stayed with us many years. Good friends with Mick, and Chaz Burke's passenger then. It's on the old 700 two-strokes. Going flying up and down Palatine Road, bumping it up and stuff. So they stayed with us TT, and then Bob Hurst, Manx Grand Prix, obviously not around with us any longer, but Bob Hurst, Pete Swallow, two guys that shared our garage.
Would you say that sort of lit the early flame then? I mean,
yeah, very possibly, but it was just as a kid, just remember getting dragged out early morning practice by the old man when he was marshalling down at the Quarter Bridge. So getting dragged out when it was still dark,
just great.
Cold in a big coat, trying to keep warm and stuff. But it's just
never forget the experience.
Yeah, morning practice was awesome, and even when my dad moved from Quarter Bridge, where it was quite busy with marshals, too many marshals really. So him and my uncle Paul moved out to Appledene, underneath the trees with all the midgies.
Yeah.
We were out there for years, and early morning practice again in the early days before I was 16, just out there waiting for the light to come up. And as soon as the light came out, you'd hear the bikes coming all the way through Crosby and over the top of the wagon and horses and through, and you'd just hear them shut off the Griever Castle, and out they'd come through Appledene, and fantastic spot.
Absolute magic. And I know lots of other people on watching this program would agree with that. What about you? Were you a fan of early morning practice? I mean, as a competitor? Tell the truth.
No, not really. Somebody asked a similar question, and they were marshals, and they had noticed that I was towards the back end of a morning practice, if necessary. I would only go out if really needed. The Monday morning was always exciting. You had to do the first one, but that was it.
Who did you stop with when you came over to the island, Keith?
I stayed with Pat's sister Margaret Wood 1 year, I think, but generally in a hotel. There's more beer there.
Can you remember which hotels you stayed in?
Yeah, the Excelsior was stayed there for a long time on the front. They were great. That's what's it called now?
Is that oh dear me. Is that not the posh one?
Well, it's correct. It's part of the one at the end for the exclusive guests.
The Regal and the Excelsior, I think, were together, weren't they? Ask a taxi driver, he would know in the old days, every hotel from the Villiers to the Crescent, how far he had to go, whether it was worth doing it or not. And certainly there's a bit of PT history in that. But Barry was telling me earlier, Tony, that you actually started side by side in your very early days on the TZRs.
We did. I came second best to that one. He was gone. So it was it was good. We got a good picture somewhere, Barry. I think two of us starting off on the start line together. But Barry obviously started 88 was your first year, wasn't it?
88, because you were giving me a hand.
I was, yeah. 88
before practice. And
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
The Balacrane in the car just to fill time in. Can you remember that?
Yeah. Well, it was good. It was good grounding for me because I've seen what you've done in 88, and then I came along in 89, and that was my first newcomers in 1989. Again on a TZR, and it was good insight to what you were doing, which helped me because you were helping me out when I first started racing. So it was great to do that. It was a great help, to be honest.
Good times.
Who were the people that were involved with you, Keith? Who were your kind of heroes from that era, or the ones that you respected to give you a bit of assistance when you came to the island?
There was different. I don't know really. I met plenty of people, but remember nowadays everybody's based in the paddock, but in my day, and as Tony said when he was a youngster, you'd go to somebody's garage and you wouldn't see many people for the fortnight.
No, you're absolutely right there, because we've had experience of that out the back. I know Bob Jackson is listening in tonight, and certainly that was the case in, I think it was about 74 or 73 they first came. That was their life. That's where they spend all the time, with the two-strokes, the Yamahas, the TZs. I reckon I could strip one down and put one back together. I wouldn't risk riding it, but I would be able to do it just by going out there and looking at how they were doing it. Old man Jackson there throwing screws about, not worried. Wasn't sticking them in a piece of paper so they could go back in a sequence. They all went in and got washed, and he knew exactly where they went when they were getting put back. And there was an interesting thing there, Tony, when you talk about Bob Hurst. Did he not have a bike go on fire at in Withington Road, wasn't it, in the back of the van?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, he did. He had he lost two bikes, I think, that day, back of the van, which he always used, an old van. And he did have a bad fire in there, and it was his own bike. Was it his own bike or a sponsor's bike? I can't remember, but it was gutted, I think, the van.
It was a disaster, really, wasn't it? Just
it was,
parked up in Withington Road, and the next thing, it was a light.
Yeah, tragic.
Yeah.
And did Bob have a continuous career, or did he finish in the Manx and then come back with the classic Manx? Because I think he got to the 39 age limit, didn't he?
Yeah, pass. I don't know, to be honest. He had some good results, really good results. He was right up there, and he was his bike was always immaculate. Him and Pete Swallow, they were really good in their day. Yeah, he's had some great results. I think he had a bit of a crash at Glen Tram, if I remember right. one year. He banged himself up slightly there, but certainly in the early days, he had some great results, and it just tailed off a bit, as they do with a bit of age and stuff. And yeah, it was good.
What about the marshalling duties now? You hear of these things like marshals having to get out on the mountain chasing sheep and stuff like that. Did you ever have anything like that, or a dog to deal with, or anything?
You don't have to be a marshal to do that.
Because you never know the minute, do you, really?
No, we've had plenty of those cows, sheep, everything. You know, we've had cows up the top of the Garrow, chased a cow that's got on the road, and obviously sheep on the mountain. There's always getting through the fence there. Well, the fence gets damaged, so it's quite often. Probably Keith's done a load as well, to be honest.
Yeah, we caught one that I was quite proud of myself in the lunch break coming in. Yeah, I saw your face then, Tony. Yeah, perhaps that's the wrong statement.
A good-looking one.
She was a good-looking one. Yeah, and I'll join John McBride in, because we were all coming back in for lunch, so we're all grouped up, and then the marshals were running round after the sheep, and me and John grabbed back end and front end, and I'll not say who got which end, but they don't have kick, and the hands were going like mad, you know.
You better stop now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We threw it in the field.
It'd be like when Dave Crupshaw had that incident with pig, didn't he? Missed a pig on an early morning practice.
Up at Lamfell.
Well, I think it was Lamfell that was around that area. John Surtees hit a cow up around that particular area in an early morning practice. But it was a wonderful kind of reaction to it when he said, the pig got away from me because he out-accelerated the Norton.
Well, I think you would still be racing yourself at the time, Tony, but Truby, you may have been travelling marshal the year that the lorries backed down onto the circuit. That must have been a terrifying thing to deal with. Were you involved with that incident?
I was at Ballacrane, and they said, go to the bottom of Big Arrow, there's a lorry on the road. I said, a lorry? What do you mean? Don't ask questions, just get going. Well, of course, you know, like Tony will know this, when you set off to an incident, you wonder the speed of the place, what you're going to find. And I thought, well, what am I going to find? A lorry, you know? And so I went through the bottom of Big Arrow, and you wait, you depend on marshals showing you where the incident is, because you don't know exactly where it is. And so the marshals were pointing me up the road, and then they stopped me. They said, he's gone in that farm there, and there's a policeman gone up. And one of the marshals said, I'll throw a rope over a tree. You bring him back and we'll hang him.
Some friends of mine, in fact, friends of Tony's as well, actually were out there watching that night, and they saw that happen like it was in slow motion, and they were screaming, but they were too far away to do anything about it.
Yeah. I believe Joey and a good gang of riders had gone past it.
They were well on the way, certainly, when that happened. They didn't think about what the outcome could have been.
No.
But, maybe it was best going there. You didn't know what you was.
You ever do the Southern 100 marshalling, Keith?
No, I never raced there, actually, for some reason, because until I actually packed in racing, I didn't live here. So I would have had to come over for the Southern, which everybody does, I know. And for some reason, I just never took an interest in it.
There was another incident which occurred there just prior to the Thursday, I think, afternoon session. There was a big hold-up, and we weren't informed as to what it was. But somebody had been using a tractor at Williams Corner, just on the approach to Williams Corner, and he didn't quite stop and dropped the front of it in onto the course. Of course, the tractor was very visual, but it was all the muck and the stones that he'd brought down with him as well. And I think it was about a half hour, 3/4 of an hour delay to get under before the racing got underway on that particular occasion.
That was Alan Hampton's place, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was Williams on the left-hand deck, heading towards Alan Hampton. Yeah, Bella Whetstone. Yeah. So no, it was things like that are just priceless, aren't they? When you're thinking back on them, if you've got the memory remember instances like that. I've certainly not heard the story about the wagon. That's a new one on me.
I'll tell you about that after, because there could be legal connotations if I go into it here.
I was going to say that the driver of it should have known better, shouldn't he?
I think we could follow up the story about the sheep a bit more than the lorry. That would be fun.
I've got no addresses.
So many great comments, and we've got some questions here. I'm just going to quickly dip in. Apologies to interrupt. Gail Core says, I have a pic from the Manx Grand Prix in 2009, past and present TMs at the back of the grandstand. It's a great pic. I'm sure there's a story. You've sent it by message, Gail. We haven't received it. If you could send it once again to the Spirit of Motorsport or to mine, we can share that at the end of the show. Kaz Gross says, remember Gary his stop, great guy. And Mel Gantley says, hello from Vancouver Island, BC in Canada. I finally got to go to the TT in 2019 after years of dreaming about it. Raced at Cookstown, Tangragee race meetings in Northern Ireland 2018. Traveling marshals play such a vital role in road racing, and it was a privilege to watch them in action. And I was relieved never to have given them a reason to spring into action. We've also got a young Mr. Richard Trubshaw in the house, Keith. He's asking, how many TM bikes have you been dropped on the driveway?
Not on the driveway, even though I've let Richard sit on a few. But me and Tony made a nice mess of 2 Fireblades, didn't we? We've first lap of TT practice coming in at the end of the session, and I think I'd come from Ballacrane, so that was a nice run in, and then we're coming together, and I'm following Tony. It goes into Brandish, the old Brandish, and everything was fine. And next thing, Tony's just sideways on this oil, and he hit the bank. I just saw his petrol tank and then the white ceiling tiles of Noble's Hospital, and
Sorry,
2 slightly damaged Fireblades. But Tony was very quick. He fell off, then jumped up and ran to me, and he beat me to the marshal. He got to me before the marshals.
God damn right.
We've got Andre Durkop saying 2017 Manx Grand Prix 6 p.m. pheasant at Quarry Bends. It used to turn up right before the bikes came into the sector. Enzo Henley saying Keith was a travelling marshal, and I believe first on the scene when I had a bump at Craig Willie's Hill during the 97 Senior TT. I don't think they realise just how calming and assuring it is to see a friendly face when you wake up at the side of the road. Thanks, Keith. Brilliant. Thank you for that, Enzo. And
I remember
Yvonne,
that.
Yeah,
It
Yvonne
reminds me quite a few times. Sorry.
Yvonne Ward says Steve came for his pit stop and said there was a lorry on the track. I told him he was imagining it at the end of the race. Joey came and said, bye. Hell, I thought you had hit the lorry. I walked away very quickly.
Well,
Yeah.
that's the incident, yeah.
Bowers did a bit of damage to Marshall's bike too, St. Ninians. I can recall that.
Yeah, I've never seen so many pieces.
I'll slip off. That was it.
Slip off.
That was following Tony
Just slip
again,
off.
wasn't it, Tony?
Yeah.
You're a menace.
Yeah, don't follow me.
Well, listen, I know I've asked you this before, face to face, but one of your exceptional performances was when you were second in the senior Manx, and you were number 117, the last man away, and you took second place, and you finished about 14th on the road. I mean, it's something. Yeah, so on. They are.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's unthinkable nowadays that with the way the health and safety is and the starting procedures that happened. But that was a 6-lap race, and you must have passed about 80 odd bikes in that race. What can you remember about that?
I remember you saying that on Facebook, and I knew I'd done it, but I didn't realise I'd passed so many riders. It gave me plenty to things to aim at, you know. So there was, but you just have to get on with it, don't you?
Did you have signals as the race went on? No.
Not so much them days. I was very spoiled that year. I had Ron Williams, Mr. Maxton, giving me signals at got the gooseneck, and then in the pits, Alan Dugdale. So I just rode as fast as I could all the time, and that was it.
There was something on the last lap. I think it was Sam McClemens who you were dicing with in that race.
Yeah.
And I think Sammy crossed the line, got the checkered flag, and they said, but we don't know who's going to win this race. We wait for Trubshaw, but he's through Kirkmichael. You know, and nowadays it just wouldn't happen. It took ages before they could announce the result, kind of thing.
I know. Well, there was a little complication in the middle of that race as well. It was, as I say, I was very spoiled. I had Charlie Williams' 385 Yamaha, which was a projectile, but it seized on me going through Ballagary, through Glenvine, and so that was wrecked. And the other bike, as I keep saying, I was spoiled, was Eddie Roberts' 350, and that's the one we rode as a 351. And then it just didn't. I'm sure. Well, both of you will agree with this. You sometimes you just feel things aren't going well. And when I came in for my pit stop, I said it's not going well. And Alan Dugdale said with a few abbreviating words, "Well, you're coming second. It's not going right." So he said, "Well, I'll change the plugs." That was the magic thing in them days, wasn't it? Change the plugs. So he changed the plugs, and I put the petrol in, and then you were only allowed one pit attendant. I put the petrol in, but they had a tank in the back of the seat. So Alan did that. I couldn't reach that, and as it was filling up, because we'd had a little bit of excitement there, it overflowed over the seat. And I turned away quickly so I wouldn't see if it went on the tyre. And I kept it as vertical as I could through the bottom of Bray Hill. And when nothing happened, I thought, I'm all right. So there was a bit more than passing 80 riders.
Yes. Yeah. And how many second places did you get in the end?
4
second places. Yeah.
I was accused by a timekeeper that I did it on purpose.
Oh, because you want to keep doing the Manx.
Yeah, but I didn't.
Honestly. Danny Shimmer as well.
Did he do the same?
Well, not on purpose, no. But people did used to say that. Danny would have given his right arm to win the Manx, but it was just having a look on the day and circumstances, which eventually he did. You know.
I know. Well, I tried hard. I remember one time, again, in my days, rules were a little bit slacker. And there was a girl stood out in the road and her husband, and she was waving me on like this, saying, hurry up, you know. And I actually shouted, I'm going as fast as I can.
Well, Tony, getting to yourself double Manx Grand Prix win in the end, the lightweight junior, on a very special bike, and nobody was anywhere near you. Can you tell us about that deal, how that came about?
Well, to be fair to Keith, I did have 2 seconds as well.
2 seconds. I know you did, but that was 95.
Not 94. I was second to Brian Venables and Tekka Kelly on Ray Cowles' bike. 95. Towards the Manx, I didn't have a bike to ride apart from my own. My own wasn't the best, to be honest. And it seized on the first practice session coming into Courtbridge on the second lap for some reason. But I knew I sort of had a good chance after 94 Manx. Ray Cowles unfortunately couldn't come up with a bike. He had a TZ 250A, which he was going to bring over, but I was just a bit hesitant about that because Ian, TT winner, Ian Locker, sorry, gone now. Ian Locker rode it in the TT, and it didn't go too well. He thought it was going to be as quick as it was in 1990, and it didn't go well to him. I spoke to Ian about it, and I was a bit hesitant. So I phoned around trying to hire a bike. I got on to Dennis Trollope, various people, Padgetts and everyone, to try and get something decent because I knew my bike wasn't up to it. Got on to Ernie Coates, and Ernie basically said, leave it with me. And then he came back to us, I've sorted your bike. It'll be on the boat. So Tuesday evening practice, I was waiting up the grandstand. 6 o'clock boat came in. Terry Gilmore, who was mechanicking for me in them days, went down, met someone on the boat who'd wheeled the bike on, wheeled it off, brought it up the grandstand, jumped on it, got as far as the Mountain Mile where the fuel pump had gone on it. And a lad, Keith Wallace, he brought it over from Ireland. He worked on it all week, and it never missed a beat after that. But it was a fantastic bike. Robert McLaughlin's bike, MSR Racing, which he sponsored many good Irish races over there. So I hired it for 1,500 quid. Raced it from the Tuesday on. Never really had the budget to put spares on my bikes, brand new spares. But this Keith was just chucking new bits in it all the time. We took the airbox out of it because it wasn't working properly, wasn't pulling right up the mountain. But then it was a brilliant bike. But it's just 95. I watched the newcomers at the gooseneck, and you had Adrian McFarland, Adrian Archibald, Ricky Mitchell, and the newcomers Paul Deadman, Chris Heath, and I just watched them. They were doing 112s then, and the newcomers, and I just thought, I've got no chance in the junior here. Not with these guys, the way they were riding. But I managed to do it on the Wednesday, just about, from Ricky Mitchell by 12 seconds. Lucky enough just to have enough on him. But yeah, it was a brilliant bike.
That was a very reasonable price, Tony, as well, to be honest with you.
Oh yeah, absolutely, very reasonable. We didn't really work out a price. He could have charged a lot more, but it actually worked all right. But we didn't work out if it was bend it, mend it. So it was a lot of money in them days. I think it was even probably about best part of 20 grand's worth in them days with all the bits on it. And we never discussed that. So I was just fortunate to just give it to him back. They took it back, and then it went out and won the Sunflower meeting with Alan Patterson on that year. He went and blitzed the Sunflower meeting, the Bishop's Court on it. Still had road and track motorcycles on the side, and a few sponsors I had for the Manx.
Yeah, but no, I could. Well, I won't now, but I could quote you some terrible prices for renting 250s for the Manx.
Yeah,
not £1,500, that's for sure.
Yeah, well worth the money. So just going back to that one, before that, it was I rode for Ray Cowles, and Ray footed the whole bill in 1994. Thanks to Terry Gilmore, who got me the ride through Ray Cowles. That bike was rode by Jason Griffiths in the 94 TT, and Ray didn't charge me a penny.
Very good.
Great, thanks, boys. We've got a couple more questions, and then we've got one more picture to show. Keith, we didn't get you to share your favourite memory. We didn't get you. We rudely interrupted. What was your favourite memory of being with the marshals?
Well, I thought about this today, actually. That I'll not go on too long about one of them because it's very simple. My absolute favourite corner or whatever is the bottom of Bray Hill. Always has been fantastic. And for, I think, 2 years on the trot, I had the job of being based as a travelling marshal at the bungalow. And then towards the end of a race, I forgot what day it was, there would be a classic parade. And my job was to set them off from Quarterbridge. So I would come from the bungalow to Quarterbridge. So you get a run through the bottom of Bray Hill, and you never get that as a travelling marshal. So that was incredible. But as an interesting story, it was again to do with the parade. And we were separating different groups in this parade. And there was me and Des Emmons off together, and we're going along and getting towards Ballaugh. Mick Grant passed us, and of course they weren't supposed to pass travelling marshals, but what, you can't go and shout at him, can you? Anyway, we were chasing Aggo, which was fantastic, like on an MV. The noise was beautiful. So it gets towards Ballaugh, and Mick Grant passed us, and he caught up with Aggo. Well, Aggo was just in front of us, and he was waving to him, and Aggo didn't know what was going on. And in the end, what it was, he got him to stop at Gwen's, the famous Gwen Crellin, and the marshals were all over everybody. Gwen was kissing. I go, this is, if anybody knows her, she would always be doing that. Photographs everywhere. It was fantastic. And me and Des were going, we better get going, you know. And we set off. But that was incredible.
Absolutely priceless moment, that, wouldn't it?
Oh, definitely. She was a lovely lady.
Great stuff. Got a comment here for you, actually, Keith. Got Andy Karush saying, I have Tony to thank you for my 2 seasons racing at Germany in 1992 on the KR1S Kawasaki after seeing him riding his Can't Beat the Era of 2 Strokes. Thanks for that, Andy. We've got a couple more comments, and we've got one more picture to share with you. So we have Brian Spooner saying 1994 Trollope and Padgett's wanted $2,500. Thanks,
I'm too polite to say. Yeah, I'm too polite to say. I don't know about Dennis. I never had anything to do with Dennis, in fairness. But I did rent off Padgett's, yes.
Stephen Hallam says, always a great listen. And John Kashirski, thank you both. So Gail Cora sent this picture in, boys, that she commented about before. So we're just going to share this. And she's asked for the story behind the picture, if possible. So Aidan's just going to pop it up on the screen for us.
That was to help John, wasn't it? John McBride.
Yeah, it's when he just dropped off at Keppel and hurt himself. So we were just doing a bit of fundraising for him, just to make the financial issues a bit easier. So we were just a bit of a thing to John, really. But the other, obviously, the former TMs at the back there, some of which aren't here any longer. But it was nice to get everyone together for that photograph in the pit lane there.
I think we auctioned that down at a function that was held for John down at the Manx Legion Club.
Yeah, it's a good photograph, that.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially with big H in it there as well.
Yeah. Well, John was a long time in Liverpool, wasn't he? In the Royal, serious injuries, and it was difficult for his family having to go and stay there for periods of time. It was a tough time, but doing well. Still around.
He's all right now. He's all right now. He gets down to Peel with us and hobbles along and has a few pints in Peel, doesn't he, Keith? When we go down there for a get together and a bit of a pub crawl. So he's on good form now.
Yeah,
he
was very lucky, actually, wasn't he, Tony? With the not very lucky to crash in the first place, but when he got to Liverpool, there was some. Tony might know a bit more detail. Some big convention of heart people or something there, and they were made up with him because all this to work on, and he had the best in the world, and because he had a really serious injury to his heart.
He told me that story as well. Yeah.
Yeah, so damage to his aorta. He was lucky that he had landed near to the rescue helicopter at Keppel. He landed in front of that, and then he obviously got taken straight away, and he was straight off the island. I think he pinched someone else's plane to wherever he went, and then he got the best surgeons on him. So he's good. He's good now. He's a tough man. It's not his first. It wasn't his first crash. He's done a few when he was racing as well.
Case Cottage springs to mind. The accident at Case Cottage.
Case Cottage.
Black was good.
Go on.
Oh yeah, that's my photograph. That one. That was last Grand Prix or TT. I think last Grand Prix. I think it was. That's John Simpson. We have a team of 7 travel marshals at the moment, so that's the current team. Really strong team, and that's our 8th member or our first member really. That's John Simpson, who's the controller from the tower, who tells us where to go, what to respond to. So he's our main man. So that's the other part of the travel marshal team at the moment. We used to have Mike Stewart, used to be the controller former to him. But that's as you can see, total respect from Stephen Oates there behind him. We're probably giving them the bunny ears.
Very good friend of mine, John. Actually, we're regulars on a Saturday night here, there, and everywhere. And he's one of those kind of unsung heroes, really, who just kind of
absolutely. That's why I put that photograph in there. It's just he is an unsung hero, and he's so good to us. I used to work him in the fire service. You see, John. He was me sub officer and station officer and training and stuff. So station commander. So yeah, I go back to and Big H with him. You know, he had a lot of fun with H on the radios. Him and H were something to listen to, and he was asking him to go to certain jobs and stuff. You can imagine what H was like with him on the radio. You know, big long messages, and H would just say again, over, and just get him to say the whole lot again and wind him up. So yeah, he's brilliant.
It is an acquired art.
Oh, the balls at the race meetings.
Yeah, that's him. Yeah, he has a magic system apparently where it's like a magnetic area, so it puts it down 1 to 7. I think you're right. Do you realise that at Ramsey Hairpin they have the Marshal's Lottery? You're aware of that?
No.
The last bike through the numbers.
Right.
All little kind of few bob in the pot at the start of practice and the start of race week, and then it's who gets the most right as to the last number that comes through. I mean, you fellas are up there and away gone, but it does vary, doesn't it? It's not guaranteed it's the same number every time.
No.
But obviously, if you move during the race, you're going to be in a different position when you get there.
Yeah, that's right. We move around quite regularly, especially in practice. But we move around more, but try not to in race periods. But yeah, we do move around to instance and stuff.
Seems ironic, Tony, there that you just had a photograph on earlier of you at Quarterbridge, where your dad Kenny was doing the marshal and you were dragged for the early morning practice on the blue plates. So it must have been your junior win, number 9, I think you were racing at.
Yeah, that was the 95 junior, and it's before the fencing. Obviously, you can see the spectators there. And it's before the fence, the catch fencing went there, so it was clear for the spectators. They could just have a few shandies and lean over. And that was 95 junior.
I can remember it before that when it was actually physical sandbags that they had to put up along that stretch where the straw bags are now. They were all spaced with straw bags, but just looking at that and then looking behind Hailey, you've got your life story of the TT in 2 minutes.
Pretty much.
Unbelievable.
So we've got some great stories from Phil Looney saying, Brian Spooner, brilliant. Thank you for your service, gents. And Noreen Lawrence says, really enjoyed that. Thank you. So many great comments. John Gashirski is looking for autographs from all of the TMs. And we've got Facebook user coming in saying, really enjoying listening to you guys. Love these stories from the past stars of the Manx Grand Prix. The McLaughlin was the guy's name. The MSR McLaughlin was the guy's name. So many great stories. Boys, we've got to get you back on when the TT should have been on. We know it's cancelled, but we've got to put some shows on. We'll have to do one with you, all the TMs, and bring you all together with the boys. It would be fantastic to hear more stories. Thank you for sharing your pictures, and absolute pleasure having you on and joining us in the studio. Really appreciate your time. Roy and Barry, do you have any final questions for the chaps?
No, it's another kind of sincere appreciation for getting these people together. We're very fortunate, really, aren't we, on the people that we've kind of, Barry especially kind of spends his time, well, he's had plenty of time to do it off late in lockdown, sitting in a taxi thinking of people, you know, when you think of the people we had, Chris Mitchell, we had Con Law and Brian Reed, and now Tony and Keith. And it's priceless I'm getting to use the word priceless too often, but it is. It's genuinely appreciation for taking the time out. And we're not here to ask questions. We're here to listen. And we never even mentioned about Keith and his good lady having that incident on the open roads. Right through to the end before we even mention that. That's the respect that we have for them.
That was, I thought of that. I'm not going to mention that tonight because accidents can happen. You know.
Well, they can. Pat sometimes reminds me about that little incident. Like, you know, she was very good actually. I've still got the helmet. Remember, again, everything with me is a long time ago. Bell helmets were the best, you know. and I've still got the helmet that Pat was wearing, and it's gouged right the way through, all across the top. I don't know how she did it, because I hit a Mini coming out of Chris Varga's farm, as it is now, and I went up in the air, then back down to the ground, and Pat finished up on a wall in a bush. But don't know, there was hardly any distance how she'd managed to slide along on ahead in this short period.
Well, she's a lucky girl.
She certainly was. But Barry, you're saying about that time when I was 117, when that time when I had the crash, I was supposed to be number 4, my best ever number, and I spent the 2 weeks in Nobles Hospital.
If you could have put up the same performance as number 4 as you did from 117, you'd have been miles ahead. And I'm sure you've thought of that many times over the years as well.
I enjoyed myself. I enjoyed myself. Well, another second place in 1983, one of my best. I was 110.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, I remember that too. I seen them all from Bedstead, or most of them anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think there was the likes of yourself, Mick Robinson, Sean Collister, Bob Jackson. In fact,
yeah,
there was a whole scutch of men could have won the rank several times, but it just happened that luck on the day, wasn't it?
Having the breaks.
Yeah. And somebody else could come and do one Manx Grand Prix, win it, and is never heard of again.
Yeah. Well, that was where I'm lucky that I had a good run, coming second, spread out, and people would lend me bikes thinking that I could win on their bike. If I'd have, I'll say on Alan Dugdale's, that was 1975, 1974 was it? You'll know these facts, Barry. That Alan Dugdale won every Manx Grand Prix, all the 3 races.
That was the Dugdale's year, that's right. Eddie Roberts and Bernie Murray won the double that year.
That's it. So if I'd have done that in 1975, because it was a lovely bike, so if I'd have won, might have been the end of me, mightn't it?
Yeah.
But this is what makes road racing so fascinating. This is the sort of stories we tell at the pub all the time. As Russ Henley and me say, the more you tell these stories and the older you get, the more you could have done if you really wanted to on that particular day,
Definitely.
We've got Simon Heath saying, great stories. The marshals and TMs are true heroes. Big thanks to them all. And Andy Fenton saying, cheers, folks, all completely irreplaceable. I agree, Andy. And Andy Karouche is saying the TMs are unsung heroes. Yes, you are. So, Keith and Tony, we look forward to inviting you back on again and going through more photos and enjoying more of your stories. Thank you so much. Take care of yourselves. Thank you for all that you've done for our beloved events. And we look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thank you.
No problem.
Cheers, boys. Much appreciated.
No worries.
See you. Bye-bye.
See you later.
Yep.
Roy and Barry, another fantastic show. Incredible.
Right. Once you get started yapping, the stories come out quite naturally, really. And if you can remember a few things that happened in the past, it just keeps everybody going.
Yeah.
But I knew they'd be all right to chat once we got going. And very interesting. I'd like to say from 2 different angles of racing, from top Manx Grand Prix riders to travelling marshals. And it's they managed to cover both the aspects. So job done.
Brilliant. We've got lots more comments here as well. Brilliant. Thank you from Yvonne Ward. Brian Spooner saying brilliant night. Thank you all. And Miles Corlett saying brilliant. Thank you to everyone. Great boys. Fantastic suggestion for your guests once again. Really special for me to be a part of and listen. And yeah, absolutely brilliant. And I can't wait to get all of the TMs together and try and do a TT special if we can. So would you be up for that?
Yeah.
When it happens, I'm sure we can get involved with that. Yes. Yeah.
Fit it in. Provide the ice cream van isn't in Williston, we'll be all right.
We'll be all right. But I mean, I was just saying before, it's probably less than 50 days to what would have been the TT, and PTT Classic, and all the other things leading up to that, like the Cookstown, the Tandragee, the Northwest, and all these things getting into a frenzy of excitement. None of it's happening. So if you can do a special show, that's something to look forward to. We'll be there, yeah.
It's our responsibility, I think. So absolutely. Right, boys. Well, it's great to see you again. Let's continue this mountain memories, you sharing your memories and your great connections as well. And we look forward to seeing you again in 2 weeks' time.
We should be,
Yeah.
I'll try and get scanner. I've got no scanner, Hailey. I've had no scanner for 3 weeks, but we're working on it, so I can't post any new things. They're all memories things, so I'm leaving that to my colleague here.
Yeah, we've done all right. We've had some good response. It's been 3 lockdowns. You can't really complain about keeping memories going for 3 lockdowns when you know for a fact that people have got not much to do, and they're just kind of waiting on stories. We're getting good responses from some surprising angles, really, and certainly some of the stories that the boys came up with tonight will be possibly repeated. Maybe not in the next 6 months, but certainly later on. There's more mileage in that for sure, especially the show.
Brilliant. All right, boys. Thank you once again. Have a great evening, and we'll see you in 2 weeks' time.
Right. Good night. See you.
Back to the grandstand.
Thank you, everyone, for your comments. They keep coming in. Andy Carouche saying thank you for making another Tuesday evening so interesting and enjoyable. Good evening, Grant Hollis. Nigel Conrad saying top class. Linny Ritzy saying awesome show. Seamus Rice saying absolutely brilliant as usual. Phil Looney saying ciao. Ciao to you, Phil. Thank you, guys. If you know anyone that might have missed tonight's live show, please do tag them in, share away. This is available now. It's going to be there on our YouTube channel. You can watch the replay back if you joined us late. Absolutely no problem. Let us know how you get on. We'll be back again with the boys in 2 weeks' time with a couple of special guests again. But yeah, keep supporting us. We really appreciate you jumping up on the chat and sharing your questions and being a part of our Spirit of Motorsport community. So I'm Hailey Coxon. This is Mountain Memories episode 7 on the Spirit of Motorsport TV.